Welcome back. I thought I'd do a brief video on an exercise that I did tonight. There's a couple of layers to it. It's asemic writing, which I use as a form of divination, and also synchronicity. So I'm just going to talk briefly to those 2 points. So asemic writing is essentially, you don't have to enter into trance. A lot of people go about creating asemic writing as a form of art and art unto itself, so no necessary purpose beyond that. Other people, such as myself, use it similar to how people, I suppose, would use tarot cards. So whether I'm doing a reading for myself or a reading for someone else, I can use asemic writing as a tool to be able to sense, to open gates and sense things. So I did that tonight, and it was most intriguing. And I finished and I thought, gosh, okay, I'll show you what it is so you have an understanding, but this is essentially what I came up with. So this was during trance. Very briefly, there's 3 ways I go into trance. One is through meditation, so through repetitive breath. The other is through repetitive drumming, so I'll bring out my tabla and I will drum until I feel my state of consciousness is altered. The third one is listening to music, usually chanting, or I'll listen to something along the lines of Dead Can Dance, or listen to Furpa, who are a Russian band who are very much steeped in Tibetan Buddhism and the Bon religion. So tonight I meditated and started drawing this. So how I did this was I was in trance and then just started drawing boxes. Just drew the boxes, and then just slowly, it probably took about 20 minutes or so, very, with a great amount of awareness, filling in these without too much censorship. So I didn't censor myself, I just started to draw them in. Now when I finished, I thought, okay, I wonder how many boxes there are. A few weeks ago, one of my relatives contacted me, and he said, I've just been thinking that there are 72 sects in Islam, which is part of my family's religious belief. 72 sects in Islam that are all apparently going to hell, and there will be one sect, the 73rd sect, or potentially, according to some scholars, just a group of people who will actually ascend. So he went on to say, and then I started looking back into the Lesser Key of Solomon and doing some research around that, and some analysis of that has suggested that there was in fact, where the Lesser Key of Solomon lists 72 demons, there was in fact a 73rd, that being Priscus, the demon. So this 73rd demon that went missing. So here we have 72 sects, 73 sects, 72 demons, 73 demons. Anyway, so then we started doing a little bit more research into the relevance of the number 72. 72 languages spoken at the Tower of Babel. Back again in Islam, Muhammad's grandson was one of 72 martyrs in the Battle of Karbala. What else was there? Catholicism. In the Bible there's 72 books of their Bible, and on it went. So you could Google it. Just Google the relevance of, or the meaning of 72, or something like that. Anyway, so 72 had been playing in my head a lot over the last few weeks, and around the same time I decided to be more aware of synchronicity in my life. So I believe that synchronicity is happening around us all the time. We just may not pay attention to it. Once we become aware of synchronicity and start to pay attention to it, it's pretty cool. Like, for me, it's everywhere. So I counted my boxes post writing, and as a background story, there happened to be 72. So I thought that was kind of a confirmation of the commitment I made to myself a few weeks ago to pay more attention to synchronicity and events in relation to synchronicity. So back to asemic writing. So I use this as divination. You can see that it's really wonky on the page, but hopefully that looks a bit straight. So as I'm writing through these, I use my intuition, and in a previous video I spoke about the ectopsych and that sort of outer layer of consciousness, and how there are the four anchors of consciousness, one of those being intuition. And so I use intuition when doing a reading. So as I was going through, there were some of these that stood out a great deal for me. I won't go into them all, but I'll give you a few examples. So if you wanted to try this exercise, you'd have an understanding as well. So with this one here, this arrow here, when I was drawing that, I actually felt a physiological change. So my breathing changed, my muscles sort of tensed a little bit, and I had to consciously relax. I'm usually perfectly okay with change, but this one here indicated a significant change coming up in my life very soon. This one down here represented that there'll be challenges and tests. So basically there'll be a few tests that I have to overcome, because I'm trying to get back to being balanced, and currently I am not balanced, and I'm the first to admit that, which is why I've started blogging and videoing again, yeah, not letting people that report my pages and what have you get in the way this time. So moving along here, this one here really stood out for me. As I drew this, like through my, almost through, you know, the top of my head, if you want to call it, you know, whatever you want to call it, chakra or third eye or whatever you want to call it, but like a vision through my head, was of the stars above, so the constellations, and making sure that I pay more attention to the sky at night, not necessarily interpreting it. I don't do interpretations, I don't read tarots, I don't do that. It's not what I do as a medium. But just paying more attention, just being aware that there's something beyond here. Almost a bit like not sweating the small stuff, because it's a pretty big place out there. So that one was a nice reminder too, because I've stopped looking up at the sky for a little while now. So this one here represented my family. I won't go into all the details because I'll probably bore you to death. The Arabic letter up there, that's pretty random, some numbers. There was another one that really jumped out at me. Which one was that? Can't find it. Anyway, so what I do with these letters that really stand out, or symbols, sorry, not letters, but symbols that really stand out, I actually journal them. So I write down, okay, this particular symbol here, and then I write down what I sensed at the time, or what my intuition said that it was. And I do that. So I've got a journal of symbols, kind of like, almost like you'd say a bit of a codex or something along those lines. And then I start to get a collection of symbolic meaning for myself, which is personal to myself. And like I said, no one else needs to understand it. It's really just for me. So the purpose of doing something like this is really to bypass my conscious awareness, to not overthink, to get back in touch with my intuition, to trust my gut, to be creative, to not censor myself, all those sorts of wonderful things that I'm trying to do at the moment. And this is what it ended up looking like. So this is actually quite neat compared to a lot of my asemic writing or pictures or stuff. So that's a pretty neat exercise. You don't need boxes. You can just actually, I say just try meditating. I'm actually going to do a video on how I meditate. That might be useful. But you can try doing some breathing exercises. You can try just banging on a saucepan. You can try tapping on your knees, whatever works for you, to get you into a particular trance state. Some people use the tapping of the forehead, which works quite well for me. And then when you feel that you're very relaxed and altered, pick up a pen and start to write. It doesn't have to make sense. And see what you feel, or feel what you feel. Try not to think about what you feel. And use your intuition. So that's how I use, in part, asemic writing. And I'll go away and I'll stick this somewhere for a little while until I understand it, and then I'll dispose of it. So I think that's probably what I wanted to share tonight, because I thought it was a pretty cool series of events that I've had today. Just taking time away from social online connection and just focusing back on myself has been kind of cool. So thanks very much for listening.